Hi, lads and lassies, and thank you for joining us again for Wednesday night movies. And tonight, it's Lethal Weapon,
Woohoo!
and I'm definitely getting too old for this shit.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Oh,
a
I think
fun
that
movie.
makes
I
three of us.
belong in the British Museum of Natural History.
Yeah. Basically, I've got the original family photo, or sorry, cave paint. My dad did. So, but another Christmas movie, technically.
Yeah,
It
and
definitely is.
It
I
definitely
forgot
does. It
this was
starts
it.
with Jolly Christmas.
Yeah.
So it does. There's the Christmas presents under the tree. There's bits and
Well,
pieces like that.
Not only that, the entire very cheesy 1980s intro is Christmas music in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starts
I
off a
had
very
totally
cheery
forgotten this
Christmas,
was Christmas.
right into semi-nudity.
I'd say for that time, it's fairly tasteful. It is not overly gratuitous.
Yeah,
It's
I know, but considering it starts off very jingly, you imagine somebody sitting, oh, that sounds quite good. Sitting
Looks
in
like a
the
nice
family.
Christmas movie.
Hey kids,
Let's bring
come
Nan
around.
in.
Send the kids to bed, send the kids to bed, quick. But no, I must admit, it was a fun movie. Again, I hadn't seen it for a long time, and it was quite. There was parts in it I thought they sort of dragged out a wee bit.
hmm
And some parts, even the funny parts, I thought they dragged out a wee bit. Like the part with the kids, get the cranes, get on. I just thought it dragged out a wee bit. The kids were great in it, but it was the Murdoch. Aye, what's your name? What's your name? Go and tell us your name. And don't tell him your name. Don't tell him your name, Arthur. And stuff like that. That was funny, but just the sort of preamble part where they were doing it was
Mm.
taking it down. The kids were hilarious. Even the fact that the four kids, you please shoot us black people, and you're sitting there. There's two black cops there,
Yeah.
and they're just basically coming out, and he's just going, "Oh, see, that's the way it's
Okie
done.
dokie.
Done it with humour, and it's it was fun." But I think the Murdoch Murtaugh sort of dragged it out. It's just obviously the type of thing you would do with kids, but considering he's got kids, you would think he would be
A
a bit
bit more sort of
savvy of how to talk to
comfortable.
his son.
Yeah.
Knowing that his son's no like a 2-year-old, so talking to him like that, hello, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
'Cause but I think
But he's the straight man though. So
yes, he is.
he's gotta be that.
It definitely does, but I think he's got some of the funnier lines in it, or the funnier situations in it. Obviously,
Mm.
But it is because there's so many angles being played on it. Because what the film really does start off great with, you get to know Murtaugh and Riggs
straight
quite
off,
well.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
do
get to
it
know them.
before they even get teamed up. It basically sets each of the character where they are, where they're going, what's happening in their backstory, and that's what the first half hour of the movie. Then they get teamed up. So it's no suddenly they get teamed up and then you have to find out their backstory because they sit in a car and tell each other. I thought the way they did that was really well done. The setup was absolutely perfect because
Exactly.
you knew what
This is a
happened.
cop buddy movie, really well done. It brings together. You have a full understanding of where Riggs is coming from. You have the same where Murtaugh is coming from. What he really, really wants. Oh, look, we got the double team here.
Yeah, they're actually fighting. That's basically. I thought I'd actually put it on because the two of them are actually sitting there, but I'm getting switching it back off now.
The more the
So
merrier.
cute. So cute.
Yeah,
Tis
I like
the
to think
season,
so.
after all, isn't it?
Yeah, not as well behaved as Riggs is.
Oh, I do love a border collie like Riggs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Border collies are
Although I
the
would say
best.
that the dog, the first time we really see the dog is running across the beach and gets into his caravan and everything. And all he sees is just like a naked Mel Gibson just walking past him. You can even see the dog is going, okay.
Well, see, there's another thing which, considering when it was made, in effect, it 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 wasn't gratuitous in one way because yes, you had the semi-naked woman at the beginning, and then you had Mel Gibson floating down naked, so it was guy and girl. It wasn't a case of that, but there you go. Mega Geek's favorite film. I can understand why, because it was. I think it was actually as a movie, and all in all, was so well set. Benji, he's trying to climb over me, but he's tangling on my wire. But it was basically so well set up that
It
I think it's
is.
almost a perfect. Apart from the wee one or two bits that seem to go a bit long, it's almost perfect. The setup,
Mm-hmm.
the situations were great. There's a couple of things like if I was driving a car and a helicopter's trying to knock me off the road and it starts going beside me, I know I'm swerving. It's things like that. You would think she knows she's going to kill her. You think she's going to actually take the chance, but just get a wee bit frightened because the helicopter's flying beside her.
You see, I was coming at this because I knew it was going to be us talking about and trying to find it like, oh, this wasn't so great. The only real complaint, yes, some things are a little bit too long, could have been a little bit shorter, jokes run a little bit too long. But for me, it's just the continuity goofs. Even the semi-naked lady at the beginning of it, you see where the doll, or if it was actually a stunt lady doing it, she's almost falling toward the edge of the car. She would have bounced
the front
off.
of the car. You saw her coming down towards the front,
Yeah.
and then suddenly she's landing on the roof. I noticed that still.
But
that
there
one
are
got
other,
your
there are
attention.
other things. So it's just after Murtaugh and Riggs, they're having this moment where he realized, oh, you're not faking it. You're really crazy. And he's going, it's like, I'm going for food, and he's going for another hot dog. And he's almost eaten the entire hot dog by the time he gets into the car. But when he sits in the car, he has a fresh new hot dog.
Ah.
There's plenty of those like tiny continuity errors throughout the film, but they don't by any means disrupt like the immersiveness or anything. It's just like you pay attention to it because you want to find it. But no, overall, I thoroughly love this film. It's good from all angles. Even the bad guys get a little bit of an idea. If you take the first, shall we say, big purchaser, when he gets introduced to Mr. Joshua and understands, okay, I should probably not screw with Mr. Joshua.
Yeah.
Gary
Busey has a way of just scaring the bejesus out of you.
He actually played
does
it so well.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that, because there's obviously later Gary Busey ones, you just see him as sometimes he plays a weirdo. But this one, it was just pure evil. But not evil as in, haha, horns, evil. He looks at, he just, as if he didn't care. That big deal.
Yeah. A sociopath, like a full-on sociopath. Yeah.
There was no feelings in it. Yes, you could probably have got somebody who couldn't act to not understand that, to do that and just do it dead straight faced. And he just did it in such a way that you would sit there thinking, I'm not sitting next to him in a bus.
Exactly. If he's coming down the street, I'm walking across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I think he just did it so well that it was amazingly well. I must admit. And I was very impressed, and considering what a lot of the movies later on, which he's been in, and a lot of the programs, you think he just acts as a weirdo, and he just looks a weirdo. But in that, he's a psycho, and you can understand why it was an iconic role.
It comes back to that, and obviously I will be proven wrong, but I have a feeling those guys and girls that do really manage to, through the silver screen, portray that psycho, evil, really, it's like this is a bad person, tend to be the nicest people there is around, because they bring out what they most fear themselves, what scares them.
Yeah,
you
And
look
obviously, the
at
one
nicer
way of
you
looking
are,
at it. Yeah.
you look at one of the most iconic ones, Delgado, the
Mm.
master.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody says he was one of the most nicest, so
indeed.
quiet
He
man.
was, by all accounts, everybody just talks about him being the kindest, nicest man. And yes, he was such a brilliant
Yeah,
villain. You would never know.
yeah. Even on set when he was playing the villain, they said 90% of the time he would play it in his slippers, because it put people at ease with them.
Yeah,
But
no,
there's
no, no,
someone who
no, no, no.
knows how he's
Sorry,
acting.
if I'm ever meeting an evil genius and he's standing in his slipper, I know I should probably run.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You got a guy who knows how intimidating a character can be, and he does things to put people at ease, like wearing these slippers. Because how can you take him seriously when you can see him with a pair of slippers on? And it was basically, he was just such a nice guy. He just wanted to put people at ease, even when he was playing characters like that. And
Yeah.
I think Gary Busey, I don't know what he's like, but he's definitely. Let's hope he's not that evil.
He
Or he
looks like a
wasn't that evil.
character. Let's just say that. I
Yes.
don't know a lot about him as a person. I seem to recall over the years hearing bits and bobs, over the years that he'd had a few issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to say what they were because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I do recall
Yeah.
something
It's
about that.
sometimes he's actually been public. It's been publicised. Even when he did that Big
Mm,
Brother, he talked about things in his past.
yes. Yes.
But early on in his career, I think he just looked as if he had the type of roles he had. He suited very well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those characters that he instantly commands your attention when he's on screen. He's a fascinating character. He inhabits those really deeply disturbing characters very well.
Yeah.
And yet he's also played a wide range of characters, but he seems very well suited to
He seems
characters
to be able to
like the one in
slot
this
into.
film.
Yeah, he seems to be able to slot into a different range. Some of them he can do, but it's almost like you can see he's acting. Whereas this one, he just looks so natural. You could see, ooh, and that's, I suppose, is the difference. Someone who's a good actor, sometimes they can see they're acting because it just seems unnatural to them. So you see them, they
Yeah.
put the character on. Whereas other times they just seem to slip the character on, as in, this is me.
I think that's a great credit to him as an actor because
Yeah,
to be that sort of terrified by a particular character, you as you say, you forget you're watching an actor and you think, wow,
yeah,
this guy is really scary. You
yeah,
start envisaging, yourself in that situation, and then that's a sign, I think, that you've really been immersed into a film and it's really taken you in.
yeah. And considering the acting chops he had around him, Benji going to stop being a pain.
No,
See,
he's not. Let
yes,
him
he is.
stay.
He just wants to put.
He's so cute.
He likes to think so, and so does he. But he's sleeping. But anyway, considering the acting chops he had around him, so some of the background characters like the general and the Murdo. I keep wanting to say Murdo's
Murtaugh.
Murtaugh is his friend whose daughter murdered at the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
those are very well-known character actors as well. Yet he
Oh,
still
yeah.
stood out amongst them.
Yes, exactly. I do have a fun reference,
Uh-huh.
crossover reference here, because I'm currently massively into Dark Shadows and I'm watching the series. I suddenly recognize the actor Mitchell Ryan, who plays Burke Devlin in the 1960s, late 60s Dark Shadows Gothic soap opera. And so that actor, Mitchell Ryan, he's got one of those faces where you see him once
Uh-huh.
and then he's another one. You see him and he's got such a strong presence, a screen presence, that
Yeah.
he's just, there's
You could
quite a
believe
few
he was
actors in
military.
this film
Uh-huh.
like that.
Yeah.
So
Tom
they,
Atkins, that was his
mm,
Hunsucker, the father. And as you said,
yeah,
that Michael Ryan,
another one.
you could actually assume, you could actually believe he was military,
Yeah,
and they're quite well known character actors. Because you could look at a movie, you might not know the names, but you go recognize him, recognize her, and it's that's when you get a good character actor. You might not recognize their name, but you can recognize them from about 5 or 10 different roles they've done, because each of the roles are so iconic, even if they've only been in for a couple of minutes here and there. And to me, this was actually quite full of good character. Like for instance, the daughter, the one that played the daughter, the one that was getting terrorized, she was really good
mm,
because she looked terrified.
yeah,
Even the bit when the two guys get shot next to her, she's just freaking out and standing there, and he's shouting to her, in the car, and she's just freaking out. You can imagine if that happened to you, even if your dad's a cop, you would just be freaking out because you wouldn't know what's happening, what to do, and stuff like that.
yeah,
She had that, I suppose, aura of terrified. And even when they've got thingied up ready, and the general is talking about torturing her, you could just see the fear in her face. She was really, really good in that part.
mm-hmm,
Because earlier on, you see the bit when she's trying to smile and got get rigs and got her. You could see the wee smile, and the brother and the sister are slagging her because of it. It just looked a
Yeah.
wee bit
But would you
too
see that
on,
today?
a wee bit too much. But then it flipped to the terrified, and she nailed that part, which I
I
thought was
think
really good.
overall, she nailed that role really well. And being part of the other films, um, it just built so well on it. But by the time I will say this is a drawback by the second film is you're already quite familiar with Riggs and Murtaugh. You know them, so they don't really have that much. It's more the family, the outside life coming in at them. But even so, it's still so many good characters here. I can hardly fault anyone, even like the stunt guys in the background. It seems they came on set, they wanted to have fun, they wanted to make a film. And by this time, obviously, Donner was quite famous already. People knew that he made good films. So being part of a project like that is obviously big credit for them.
I thought the
Yeah.
same when I was obviously reminded that this was a Richard Donner film. It really shows. It shows that it was it appears, I think, because he got so much out of his actors, that he must have had a very good relationship with them on set. And I think it must have been a good, positive set, as
Yeah.
opposed to, a tumultuous one, because I would have thought you just get so much more out of your actors. And as you were saying, as well, with the daughter, she was excellent. They were all at the top of their game, I think. I
Hmm.
really
Even
do.
even the two kids with the and the daughter singing, it just looked as if the two of them had gone off and like, we'll do this. Yeah, it might
Yeah.
have been scripted, and they read the script and did that so well that it just looked as if it was natural. But did they actually get told, right, you're going to slag her soul, something along this line, and then the two of them go away, even as kids? Because you can imagine two act, because there's been a lot of times where actors have said they've improvised something, they've been told what it's to do, so they're all set up to do it, but they do something different because it's something they've worked out together, and it makes the final cut. Whereas that one with the two kids slagging their older sister, I thought was just spot on, and I thought, A, they had to practice it. Did they practice it, or did they actually just go away and they were told roughly what to do, and they actually did it themselves, or somebody
I
coached
think it
them in
must
such a
have
way it
been,
all looked natural?
brutally honest, I think it must have been a little bit candid camera, even though they knew the camera was there.
Yeah,
A fair amount of their own ideas, and maybe Donna just went in and said, "Do you know when you're taking the mickey out of your big brother and sisters? Just think of that and go with it, because this is definitely something your younger brothers and siblings would do to you. Just to they know you're getting in trouble, but they're doing it in kind of that, I hate you now, but I will forgive you later."
Yeah, the family stuff did seem pretty realistic, I would
it
say.
did, and it just goes to show how good an ensemble cast around the two main characters what
Mm.
or was. I was going to say where, but it was just a case of the wife, just even some of the wee smart things. Yeah, it might have been scripted, but she did it so naturally that it wasn't a case of somebody's obviously thought this is how a man and a wife talk to each other. But it just seemed natural. Just the way they were, the banter. Even if we're like, for instance, going on about how bad she is as a cook and stuff like that, it just looked as if good nature ribbon, even from Riggs
But you
when he was
see
talking
that
about it.
even the mention of how bad of a cook she is. If this was the first or fifth year that they were married, he would not have said that at all.
Hmm.
But seeing that they have now been married for a little while, even there is a joke, it's his 50th birthday, and he's going, "Oh, I remember meeting this guy 12 years ago. That means you must be," and she's just going, "Shut up. Shut up." That is typical. You've been in a really long-term relationship. You dare, uh, you dare challenge us. "Oh, it wasn't your best. It's still better than I could get at the restaurant." But you would go that tiny little jab and go, "Wasn't that good?"
Yeah, definitely. I just I just found the ensemble cast for this almost as good as the two main ones. I think it was just so well done that Danny Glover and Mel Gibson worked well together, but the cast around them worked well together.
It's what lifts the entire film. The
Yeah,
supporting cast makes the main cast, so Mel Gibson and Dan Glover. If you've had, I can't even describe it, like trash actors, like nobody's first time on the set, don't know how to act, don't know how to emote or anything, it would have made them stand out far too much. So because they have a good solid foundation around them, they're allowed to bring their game even higher without
yeah,
standing out too far.
Well
yeah.
said,
No,
Jim.
it is, and you look at things like even the captain before he transferred Riggs and the psychologist. He's suicidal, isn't it? I bet he's not. I'll tell you what, and it's basically that if he survives, then I'll agree. If he's dead or he kills himself, then you're right. And it's almost like that because he's worked with him for long. Yes, he knows what he's going through, but even he might not know what he does at night with a gun, but he just got so much confidence that he will get over it, no matter how bad he is or how bad it is.
But that is
Even if it's
something
off
I've really loved with the introduction of it, because you can tell Mel Gibson's character is in a really, really bad place. But his captain has faith that, yes, he can carry through. Don't meddle, because it's not the time to. If I do need to step in, although he never says it, but he has that attitude that he knows what's going on, but he also knows this is the time. Let Mel Gibson's character figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Although I agree with you, he doesn't know how close it is. And I will say the initial opening sequence is actually terrifying, because Christmas is sadly the time when a lot of people opt to do the self-deletion.
Yes, it's brave. It's well handled, and it's a brave sort of edge, and it's something that needs to be shown as well.
Yeah. I think the only part I didn't like about it is they already set it up. They told you within the story just the way he was acting, looking at the picture, and he's got a gun and stuff like that. Then the bit where the psychologist says, "You realise his wife just died?" You're sitting there thinking, we already know that because it was acted out. You didn't need to actually give us that exposition because we already knew that because of the way he was acting in the picture. You knew it had to be. It was so well acted. You knew his wife had died. Like, fair enough. You didn't know it was a car accident. You didn't know anything else. It could have been a car accident. It could have been murdered, or she could have just died from an illness or something. But the reason she died was irrelevant. It was the fact is you knew she had already died based on the way Mel Gibson acted it.
Yeah.
But then they come up with
But
the
it
exposition
kind of,
saying, you realise his wife has died from a car accident, and you're sitting there thinking, well, that was the only wee part of that bit with the build up was because that part was unnecessary because Mel Gibson had acted it so well. You didn't need to know the reason. You just knew why he was in such a state.
I will give you that. But the exposition part does lend into the fact that we do get to know more around what really happened. So basically, the reason why she's trying to nag him, and I do like the fact that she obviously, but for the psychiatrist, Riggs is probably just another number in a file, but he's going, this doesn't look like it's going to be a good outcome for this number. Obviously, they're trying to care and make sure it doesn't happen. Whereas the captain knows him personally, which is why he has that very standoffish attitude toward her, coming and being too worried. He seems like he's not worried enough, but that's not exactly true. Because sometimes you have to take a step back. Sometimes you have to take a step forward.
What have we got?
At least my dogs love me.
Especially when you have treats.
Yes. I just realised what cup I had, so I thought I'd just show it. But pardon me. But I remember this movie from when it was on the TV in the past, and I remember I enjoyed it. But rewatching it, I forgot how good it was. I forgot the build up because I remember the jumping off the roof, and I thought that's a bit silly. Surely the guy who was committing suicide would have seen them putting that mat they were going to jump into down, but the way he's talking to him and he's just distracting him. Yes, you can believe that they managed to get that down without him realizing. And then the two of them jumping. So I remember the scenes like the two of them jumping. I remember the scenes like the helicopter and the sniper. I also remember the pistol scene where he's going, "Isn't that good for an old man like me?" This is and then he goes bang, 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 and it's a face, and it's further away, and I remember those scenes, but you don't realize how well the movie is put together.
But I agree. Even the jumper. So Riggs is putting out a cigarette on the plinth for him. Want to smoke? It's distracting him a little bit. But the actor playing the jumper, you see his hand. It's like, I'm really scared. He's like trying to reach. And you see him actually knocking the cigarette away a little bit, so he's kind of like have to chase after it. Really well shot. You get that this jumper is nervous, scared. You get all those emotions. Although I will say the voice acting of some people in this is not as good as it could have been, but it's probably just been enhanced audio, or it's like the boosted gain, so it doesn't sound like it belongs where they are at the moment. It might have been because what was this? 1986 this film was made.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the digital magic that we do have it today. I mean,
87.
my low budget setup is probably the equivalent of what they spent 50, 60, 70, 80,000 dollars.
Yeah, well, with me, I don't have any of that issue, so I don't know.
I mean, see, you could do that live. That would have been hours upon hours of processing in a studio.
Yeah, because you know what it's like. Because they'll do the take, and then they have to go back because the wind was blowing, and they wouldn't be able to hear them, so they have to dub over it. Which I never realised at the time. I just assumed to point to the camera, and that was it. Don't realise that the as they're speaking with the wind blowing.
Yeah. We're definitely spoiled today.
Yes. Well, I actually think we're less spoiled because we are aware of it now. Whereas way back then, you weren't aware. You just assumed that is how it's shot. Yes, you might know there's retakes, maybe because somebody's missed a line, but they don't retake it because the sound, it's retaking it because of something else. Because in effect, the sound is going to get dubbed over. But then it was just a case of if there was an outtake, it was usually because they fluffed the line. You wouldn't actually think about it an outtake because a bird flew by or something like that. So
I haven't seen comedy films like that in forever. The comedy film is, and they have like a film director, and they're setting up a screen and everything, and suddenly a painter's walking past in the background, and the film director is just losing his marbles. I can't recall having seen a film like that in 15 years, maybe. At least not the new one.
Yeah. I can't think of any like that. But, you know, see, the one thing I liked about this, apart from the bit with the kids, was there you had two cops, they had the different issues or things in their life, getting old, being suicidal. But it made no difference about anything else. Do you realise, apart from the kids, colour wasn't mentioned at all. In a 1987 movie, it was just a case of, that's it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, yeah, this is how it is. Nobody actually thinks about it. Whereas you imagine this movie getting remade now, he would go on about you psycho white people and stuff like that. And
yeah, it wasn't necessary then,
yeah,
because it was just about people.
Yeah, exactly. Because you imagine nowadays you would have Murtaugh. He would be the estranged father, and he would constantly be going to visit his wife, and she would be telling him what to do, and he would be a failure at everything else. And if Riggs was there, it would probably be a female ex-marine sharpshooter. It's that type of thing. It's just a case of it was just a movie. It was just there with the characters, and the rest of it was irrelevant. You had the joke about with the kids. Oh, you are cops. My mom says you actually shoot us. You shoot black people, and the two black cops are sitting there like that. Going, there's 4 cops here, 2 black, 2 white, and the 2 cops are going as if to say,
It was
there's 2 cops sitting here, but and
like,
they laughed it off because it just seemed a bit ridiculous because That is what they were told, so they're repeating it as kids would do, and the two cops are sitting there going, mm,
But I think that is a little bit of the. It's a brave talking point.
"It is,
But this is
but it's
1980s.
uh
When I grew up, you did not mess around with the police. Police officer came around. He knew your mum. He knew your dad.
Mm.
You were not mouthing back to the police officer telling you to get off that fence, even though you
Yeah,
were not really
exactly.
doing anything bad. You were not just going, "Oh, go rotating something," or I'm obviously trying to
Yeah.
not be used too bad language, but you did not mouth back to a police officer coming around and say, "Come on, guys, not a good thing." You kind of stop it. But I think they had the ability to be more polite, whereas today they know they're gonna get mouthed back. They're definitely gonna get someone not being clever or being too clever for their own good. And
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. The movie done it well because they made the statement, but because they did it with kids, and there was the two cops standing there, just sort of is not laughing it off, but it's just sort of giving it a case of really. There's two detectives standing there with a police officer and another detective, and the two of them are black, and the kids are actually going on, and they just it was just the look in their faces as if to say, Are you looking around to the kids?" But I must admit, the highlight of this movie was the kids. Even the bit when they come to pick up Pixie. "You're going to arrest Pixie. You're going to arrest Pixie. We're not cops. User cops. User," and all that stuff. And it's just a case of I just found the whole introduction, that whole part, apart from the wee bit with Murtaugh sort of not being able to talk to kids, even though he's got kids slightly older, it just seemed a wee bit silly. If it would see if that was Riggs talking to him, I could understand it because he's not got any kids, so he doesn't really know how to talk to kids. So he just treats them all like babies. I think it would have been slightly funnier that way. Whereas Murtaugh coming in and
Hmm.
going, "They're not 2-year-olds," and then just asking them the question with a wee bit of, "You can get some
uh,
ice cream."
I'll have to put that under the very niggly bit rather than this is genuine, like full on complaint, because the introduction to him, especially with his oldest daughter, "Hey, Dad, this is what I'm going to wear for New Year's Eve." And he's just going, no, no,
Yeah, he was
I'm
good
out
at
of it.
those faces. Yeah.
Yep. See, when you're saying he played Hawkins, was that the guy with the glasses?
It was. It
Yeah,
was the
I knew that. I knew he was a writer.
technical.
Yeah, I knew he
That
was
is
the right.
cool.
I knew he was the writer because accordingly he was not meant to be, but I think one of the actors had fallen and had dropped out or something, and they needed him, and because he'd some acting experience, they brought him. They
Really?
basically brought him in, but he was there as a he wasn't meant to be an actor in Predator.
Wow.
I'm sure that's the one I heard because I knew he was a writer beforehand. That's why I
Well,
asked
he
if it
was
was
really
one.
good either way. I mean,
Uh-huh.
he did a fantastic job. Predator is probably in my top 3 films
Yeah.
of all time.
Predator, I think it's the same again with a lot of movies. Once there's 2 or 3 movies, it's a case of, whereas
It
the
tends to
first one
water it
is
down a little
so
bit.
well, it's the first one works so well that
Yeah, I don't pay any
you
attention to the other ones, if I'm honest.
exactly. There's a couple of bits in the other ones you can see and go, that's
Hmm.
quite good, but the whole story behind it, like the one was Danny Glover in Predator 2?
I was
He was
just
in
going
the
to say
second one,
that,
I
and you
think.
jumped
Aye,
ahead.
Predator
Danny
2.
Glover is in Predator 2.
Aye, because remember the Predator gives them the musket, which has got a date on it, and you're sitting there thinking, so they've been coming here for hundreds of years, but they're actually effectively been fighting people who go, bang, there's a master coming on, let's load it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no as if they're the peak prey, and
Yeah.
it's whereas yes, you can imagine them coming during wartime because there's a lot of heavy armored people around, so it makes it more of a challenge.
More
But if you're
sport.
hunting somebody that's got a musket, or a pistol that they have to spend a minute loading. It's not much of a challenge. So it was wee things like that. I thought,
To
yeah,
be
I like
honest,
part of
if
it.
we took Mel Gibson out of The Patriot, where there's musket loading and militia fighting and everything, versus The Predator, maybe. I still think Mel Gibson would get his butt kicked, but maybe if you put some over-the-top superhero, because let's face it, in The Patriot, he's a superhero militia fighting unit.
Yeah, but
Everything.
it's just the fact is, the first time you saw the Predator, you've got the special forces team heavily armed,
They're not only
and
special
the
forces
Predator
team, you
takes them
have
out
people
one
the
by
same
one.
size as Arnold Schwarzenegger with the same amount of muscles, and every one of them is carrying 50 caliber submachine guns
Yeah,
Oh,
that can decimate
painless.
an entire forest.
Oh, painless. Time to take old painless out the bag.
yeah.
I might have seen this film a couple of times.
Yes, but you look at it. So one Predator, it's a challenge. These special forces, they're heavily armed. They know what they're doing, and yes, so it's a challenge. So he takes them out one by one. However, where's the challenge with someone? Doesn't matter how good of a fighter they are with a musket. It just with the fact that they introduced the musket. If they had actually sort of had maybe something that it was sort of a Vietnam or Second World War, they had something that was from that time, and they handed it over. You would say, "Oh, wait a minute." So you understand it. They've come in times of war, and as they said, it's every cycle because of the heat and stuff like that. But you can understand they've come in times of conflict where there is and although there's no major wars, there's still conflict throughout the countries. That's why you like the jungle or the safe countries.
But you do know if Predator was set during Vietnam War, Forrest Gump would have easily defeated him. Easily.
No, you would have easily run away from it.
Oh, very quickly, but he would
Yeah.
still, well,
But
okay,
that's
so
what
not defeated, but he would have survived an encounter with.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's the fact is that was the only thing so there was good parts in Predator 2, but the bit when he handed them the musket as if to imply we've been coming here for years, and you're sitting there thinking, well, considering how advanced you are, it's not really. Yeah, I mean that'd be
How
like
much
sending
sport would there have been in
that'd
that,
be like
really?
taking a special forces marine and sending them back to the caveman days. Is it a
Mm.
lot of thing to defeat a group of cavemen with sticks?
Yeah, no, it's stepping away a little bit from Lethal Weapon, but even though Lethal Weapon has good story building similarities, even though it's not the same kind of stories. If you take Predator, you have these really badass Marines, special forces, whatever they are. They're armed to the teeth. What is it, 8 of them can easily decimate an entire country all by themselves. And suddenly this unseen, unknown force is just coming in, and you see them breaking down. They know what they can do. They know how strong they are.
Mm.
But suddenly this entity, this unknown thing, is actually making them break down and fear and panic. I mean, when the guy is just unloading and just shooting blindly into the jungle, that's not what a calm and collected professional soldier should be doing. But the Predator is managing to instill that. And then
Yeah.
you do get that slow trickle, one by one, just gets picked off.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it builds
That's
it
what
really
I'm
well.
saying. It's basically that was all I was saying is about there's good bits in the movie, but when they do something like that, it sort of takes it out because where would be the challenge? So these are meant to be predators, but really, that's like turning around saying, "I'm an apex predator. I'm going to hunt mice."
Mm.
As in, you wouldn't have an apex predator hunting mice. You would have them hunting another dangerous
Sadly, they
animal.
redid that a little bit in the Voyager, where
The Herodian. The Herodian.
the Herodian, yes, the Herodian, because initially you kind of get these guys are actually trouble, But then they did the whole holodeck scene and the 2 episodes. Like, really? You're getting defeated by Harry Kim that hasn't slept for 200 hours. It's been beaten up and he can barely stand up.
And he's been killed multiple times, but he just gets picked back
Exactly.
up.
So,
He's like the Kenny of Voyager.
Oh my God, we killed Kenny!
exactly. So he feels a little bit that was a little bit carbon copy of it. But again, it comes to the first one they made, well established. They get all the things in, whether or not you're talking about Predator or in this case, Lethal Weapon. Because by the time we even start getting into a little bit of action, outside obviously the, shall we say, lovely nudity in the beginning of it, after the very jolly, like, bring the kids together. This sounds like a Christmas film. And then suddenly the lady is sniffing up flour powder, whatever it is, up her nose and jumps off the building and kills herself.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the so-called stop, you get both main heroes, and you get the deep dive, not just like, oh, this guy is a bum and this guy is a busy family father. You get depth on them, a lot of depth. Riggs, not so happy where he is at the moment. He's living a vagabond lifestyle. Definitely have someone that he seems to miss. I mean, boys don't cry. What is he doing literally within the first 10 minutes of the film?
Yeah.
And then you have Murtaugh on the other end, very busy family father, realizing he's definitely too old for this shit.
Yeah.
But you have that. And then the story starts, but it's never slow getting these elements introduced. You have something really bad, you have your 2 heroes, and the first thing that is bad is connecting back to one of them. These 2 are being joined together because they have to partner up. That's the order. From there, they take the story on their own.
Yeah. But it's as you said, there's the partnering up because the partner up. But it was the partnered up because Riggs was so unstable. Nobody wanted to partner up because they didn't know whether he was crazy or he was just pretending to be crazy. Either way, nobody wanted to partner up with him because they didn't want a suicidal nutcase. And Murtaugh got him because he's an old hand. He's a steady detective, and they know that he wants to take it easy because of his age and he's coming to the end of his career. But it would be more of a calming influence. So you do find that out later on, but it's the fact is it's his 50th birthday, so you assume that he's been put there because the way the other cops are coming to him, he's a more calming influence. So putting a wrecking ball with someone who's calm, they're hoping it will calm him down. That kind of thing. So even the reason why the 2 of them came together sort of worked because you can just see that nobody wants to work with him. Who do we put him with? You wouldn't put him with a young cop who would, in effect, not want to deal with him because he's not got seniority or he's not long in. You'd want to put him with someone who's an old hand at it and wouldn't put up with the shit. So the reason the 2 of them got put together sort of is logical as well. But the fact is, as you said, the initial crime is basically brings in one, but the unit sort of brings in the other, so that they join them up just so they could get the tattoo, so they could lead to the general and stuff like that. So, and there was one part with Gary Busey I meant to say. See the bit when they're doing he's doing the sniping. He's got Gary Busey in his sight for what 3, 4, 5 seconds, and he didn't pull the trigger. And then suddenly the gun comes down as a what, right, okay, I'll stop. The fact is, it would have been better if they didn't show Gary Busey through the sniper sights because having him sitting with the crosshairs on him for about 3, 4, 5 seconds. How easy would it have been for him to just go bang?
Mm. I was just reading
Uh-huh.
just now that Gary Busey actually he said he hadn't played a bad guy before he was cast in this film, and he was a bit nervous about it, I suppose, initially.
Wow.
But it certainly didn't show.
It did not.
If this was his first bad guy appearance, he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Yeah. In the alternate versions, the original home video and television prints had the 1984 Warner Brothers logo with the Warner Communications byline. But considering this was a 1987 movie, what difference does it make?
I snooped around IMDb as well, and unfortunately, Richard Donner passed this year in July.
Sadly he did.
Yeah.
We did a stream on it.
Yeah, we did.
91
there was a
years
stream I
old.
watched on the Donner one, so we did.
Go ahead, Jim. What were we saying?
91 years old, though. And I'm actually seeing Goonies being referenced.
Goonies, basically, Goonies is one of my favourites, and yeah, it's a Donner movie.
Yep.
Well, even better done by him. I mean, the top 4 that IMDb is giving out is Superman, 1978, Lady Hawk, 1985,
Yep.
Superman 2, 1980, and then obviously what we're talking about tonight, Lethal Weapon, 1987.
Yep. I finally actually watched Lady Hawk, so I did.
Did you?
Yep.
Oh, now that's a film we probably have to discuss because that's a really amazing.
On the left side.
Yeah. But Rutger Hauer's good in it. It is basically, I quite enjoyed that one, so it was a good recommendation.
It's fun.
Finally,
Matthew Broderick is for me by far the biggest surprise in Lady Hawk.
Absolutely. He pretty much steals the movie, really.
It did. It basically, there's parts in it, I think it's a wee bit too much like his other character in particular. But I think he had to be that way because he was obviously talking to the camera. So they had to give him that.
His fourth wall
sometimes
breaking.
It just seemed a wee bit too modern for the situation around him.
Yeah.
The way what he was saying and stuff like that.
Ferris Bueller's Days Off. That's the best fourth wall breaking film I've ever seen.
That is brilliant. Another favorite of mine.
Deadpool. That's a fourth wall breaker.
Not as good as Matthew Broderick's kind of character.
No,
yes, I do love myself. Brian.
Do you know who was the best in one of the earliest fourth wall breakers?
We're not going to go back. I
think I know.
Oh no! It's going to be Laurel and Hardy.
Oliver Hardy.
Oh no, I didn't.
Something he would go.
Oh yes, the stare into the camera.
He would just stare at the camera as if to say, "Really? See what I have to put up with?" And you know what I mean? It was never a case of he'd speak to the camera, but he would just something would happen and he'd go straight into the camera. So he would, and it is, if you watch a few of them, you just see him, the wife shouting at him, and he's just giving it out to the camera.
I thought you were going to say Tom Baker in The Face of Evil, Leela's first episode, because he breaks the fourth wall in that a couple of times. He looks straight into the camera.
William Hartnell, The Chase.
Yes.
Comes out the Dalek and goes, "And a Merry Christmas to one and all."
Yes.
So,
but I love Tom's sort of moments in Face of Evil.
Yeah. Again, he's just still definitely one of my favourite Doctors, although he's not my first.
The good ways and bad ways you can break the fourth wall.
Oh yes, there's some bad ways.
Even though the character is breaking the fourth wall, it's like, really? You're just staring into the horizon and going, I have to do this? Or really?
What's in?
No, I was saying, you in real life, you would just stare off in the horizon. It's like, really? I have to do this? But their version is they stare into the camera and going, really?
It's when they stare into the camera as if to say, you see? As if to say, see what I have to put up with? It's basically they're acknowledging it. But I've seen bad ones. I've seen someone who's talking to someone, they'll do that, and they go like that to the camera. It's almost a case of, I'm talking to you, but they look down at the camera for a split second as if to say, it's with my line. And you're sitting there thinking, somebody no edit that out or tell him to redo it because he looks right at the camera. But you can see deliberately the eyes go and back up. And you're sitting there thinking, they left that in. How bad was the other cuts must have been. But I don't know. Right, okay, out of 10, what would you give this? A good, your favourite part and your least favourite part and your score. When? What would you think?
I would give this film, I would have to give this film a 10 from an enjoyment point of view. You just get a rush watching it. Whatever little bits and pieces here and there that, you might pick up. I think for me personally, if the film has entertained me and just sort of really taken me on a journey, and it just feels like you've just come off the best ride at Disney World with this film. It's nonstop action, and it's I think definitely worth a 10.
Mm-hmm.
My last viewing of this film wasn't today. It was a fair bit of time ago, but I did quite a bit of reading and watching some clip videos and things like that. I did like the scenes with Riggs with his dog and things like that. I thought were really good character moments.
Yeah, nothing to do with the fact that he was walking about naked.
I'm saying nothing. I'm just trying to think my least favorite scene. Oh, it's been ages. I'm going to have to say, I can't think of one. I really enjoyed this film so much at the time that nothing really jumps out at me as something that really, took me out of it.
Yep. So, Jim?
I knew I was going to go second.
Yeah.
So, out of all of this has to be a 10 because story-wise, it's not afraid to touch on so many points. You have the contemplation of male suicide, weak men that still have to be strong, all the current modern topics. But when this film was shot, what is it, 34 years ago, 33 years ago, none of what's being talked about or complained about, there's not enough this and this and this. The entire ensemble, if you look at the film, black, white, blue, green, purple, the whole range, and they have to deal with serious stuff and have to really play well to what they have to deal with. Maybe even the suicide jumper at the very beginning of the film. Even though it's probably not the best shot sequence ever, it's still really good. It shows the craziness of this character. It brings him even more to life, and you know that he's already not in a very good position. But it brings in the other side of life where people are trying to play by the rules, get everything done. They built their entire house up, the big family. I mean, he even has a sports boat, a fishing boat, whatever you want to call it. He's, by any good measure, made it in life, which is what adds to even more hilarity. Here you have a train wreck, and here you have Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, literally on the collision course. Then you actually have fairly believable bad guys. they're showing tendencies like, okay, we know we're going to have to cross the line a few times. We have no qualms being bad guys because obviously we want to make the money, we want to get rich, enjoy life, that kind of stuff. We don't get obviously their background, but overall, the entire story is so well put together, and you have so much depth. Even the psychiatrist, you have depth on this lady. She's not too happy being in this police precinct. I mean, literally her third word out of her mouth on screen is she's calling the what's it called, the head of the police office. She's calling him an asshole. So you have depth to all of them. But I am going to give this a little bit of a knockback because this is what most action films that do this very stereotypical hero's journey. You have something bad, you fall down a little bit, the hero has to train, learn, get back up, and then finally they defeat someone. It's the fight sequence at the end because it feels a little bit too forced. They had him at gunpoint. Both Murtaugh and Riggs got him point blank gun. If he makes the slightest move, they could just shoot him and be perfectly validated to do so. But instead, they opt out for the hero action ninja karate film. And sadly, that's something that the film builds up to. So it's a longer thread because one of the first things that Murtaugh tells Riggs, oh, so you know the... he's not actually saying a martial art. It's
No, he says Tai
Tai
Chi.
Chi. Tai Chi, yes. So it's not exactly martial art, but he's going, oh, you have to be registered as a lethal weapon. It's a little bit of a pun then, but the fact that the end sequence is, oh, now you have to prove yourself that you can do ninja kicks and be Karate Kid. Sort of. It still doesn't take anything away from it, but it's, if I have to pick, it's the end fight. It wasn't needed. Didn't have to be there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you'd be surprised, but I'm going to give this a 10 as well. My favourite part and my least favourite part are almost the same point. The favourite part is the kids. I thought that part of it was just so well done. You just imagine the kids going, "Don't tell the cop, don't tell the cop, don't tell the cop, Arthur, don't tell him." And even, don't tell him, it's not a case of don't tell him how old you are. He goes, "Wait, how old are you?" And he goes, "6." Yeah, I mean, it's things like that. It was just very humorous. The part I didn't like was Murtaugh talking to them. And it just seemed as if he's the one with kids. He would have known how to talk to kids. If you had Driggs doing that, it would have been more believable. That was the only wee negative part. The only things I had issues with this movie in general, but it's the tropes, because it was a really good movie and the tropes didn't really matter because they used them. Similar to a lot of movies in the 80s, the bad guys were ex-military special units. The A-team. It's
I
basically
can't do
almost
business
like,
with you. All of these guys are mercenaries.
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's almost like you look at a lot of the movies and stuff like that. The bad guys were always a unit who had fought together in Vietnam and they'd stuck together. In the next, I would say, in the next 5 years, you're going to get similar types of movies, and it'll be units that were in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they've come back, and then they're starting to do the drug trade because they've got the thing because they were over there. And I think that's what I'm saying. It's just very tropish because obviously they had the war, so they could say this is why these guys are all together. You were, I think, in the 50s and 60s, you still had some things like that, but it was usually gangs. So, like, you would have a motorbike, a biker gang, and it turns and considering biker gangs actually started after the Second World War, and it was due to the fact is a lot of guys coming out, they got their money, and the military were selling off a lot of their surplus equipment. So a lot of guys, because they'd actually lived such a a dangerous life. They bought motorcycles. Hence the reason why you had the movies like The Young Ones or the Wild Bunch and stuff like that. Well, you know what I
Well,
mean? You had
not
bikers.
only that, but this I can't obviously corroborate myself, but my father said even though he was in the Navy, whenever he was inland, more often than not, he was just asked, take this motorbike, deliver this message to this unit over here.
Yeah.
So a lot
I
of
know,
them
but
got
yeah, basically
exposed to driving
you had
motorcycles.
biker couriers. Basically, yes, and motorcycle couriers was a unit for delivering messages. Yeah, and it could be in the middle of a battle, or else it could be in peacetime. So you were driving. If you were actually stationed in Britain, then you might have had to drive. But if you were in France, you might have to drive from one unit to another. Yeah, but it was the fact is a lot of the guys had actually lived a very dangerous life. So coming back to calm down, some people couldn't. Hence the reason why you got a lot of motorcycle gangs after the war, and that's where that culture has grown from. And it was after the war because a lot of guys come back and they had the fighting and stuff like that, and it's
Hmm.
guys they had lived through it with, so they didn't need to explain. So they couldn't settle back down. So they bought the bikes from the army, and that's why you had the motorcycle gangs or clubs they were called. But it was when you did you had Easy Ride and stuff like that. It was all motorcycle ones. It was usually based around guys who were fighting in the Second World War, the Flower Power, because they'd fought in the war. And this is years later. They're still hanging around with a similar crowd of friends that they'd made during the war, and they were doing this. So you got a lot of that trope in the 80s. It was Vietnam, X, but they were all drug rather than motorcycle gangs. They were drug cartel, they were the suppliers. In a few years, you'll get the same, and it'll be harder drugs, and it'll be people who all fought together in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever. I think it's just a trope. It cycles through. And that was the only criticism I had, but it's a criticism I would have had of a lot of movies of that genre. And it's because it was an easy way to get why these guys are all together and why they're tough.
Interesting.
And that's the only way I look at it is. But it's still a 10. It's still a great movie. So the trope,
Yeah.
the trope was only there just to have. It's the same idea. Um, Instead of drugs, could have been gun. So that was irrelevant. The fact it was drugs because they could have used the trope. They were gun smugglers or they were drug smugglers. It didn't matter what one it is. The still movie could have still progressed the way it did. Because you could have still had them selling guns to the street, and the cops are trying to do that. And because this guy's laundering the
Yeah.
money, his daughter gets killed. And the drugs she could have still died from drugs, but it's nothing to do with all the fact that they're smuggling in drugs. They could have been smuggling in guns, which was another trope at that time. So that's what I'm saying. Tropes work to get the situation, but the way the movie was built up was just so well done. Uh,
Yeah.
each character was you were told the character, you were shown the characters, even the characters that just came in and out, like the kids. They introduced by the two of them driving up. You're cops. No, we're not. You're a cop. You're a cop. You're going there, eh? And it was all that. It's a case of they basically because they're kids. They just basically they know they're no from that area. So yep, he's a cop. He looks like a
Yeah.
cop. And that's the type of thing. And then the way they were doing it, and then the fact that they had to get the idea, the big blonde man with freckles. It's, yeah, I mean, the fact that he even says, right, could you draw him? Really, you're asking a 9-year-old to draw big circle, yellow hair, dot, 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 dot. He looks like that. Yeah, that's going to actually be good. So why actually draw him? There'd be silly bits, but the fact that they could bring all those characters in, which were very good, even for kids,
Yeah.
and just a wee part, or else the son and daughter, the younger ones, were just even the bit where they came rushing in because they know their daughter, and the mother's going, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And said to the two kids, "Go to bed." They didn't look dead stunned. It looked as if the kids was a case of and said because mother is angry and I'm going to my bed to get out. Yeah. So even the kids in it were so well acted that it actually just as an ensemble, it was just perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I so agree with this. This is where I feel that all the roles are filled out.
Yeah.
Even if it's just you see this character for just a couple of moments. Even the poor lady that tries to fly in the beginning, you get the gist of who she is. Even though she doesn't have a speaking role whatsoever, you get the gist of who she is. She's clearly troubled. She's definitely got stuff wrong with her. And the fact that, okay, this is a character to kill off immediately, pretty much, but you get a lot more backstory to her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you get pretty well smacked in the face with that, straight away.
Yeah, you do. Right, I've got one question for you both. An easy question, if you paid attention.
Oh, you're breaking the script here now, but do tell.
What was the name of his boat?
His
Bullet?
His boat.
Oh, his boat.
Murtaugh's boat. What was the name of it?
Oh, I can't remember.
It's not number. Does it have number 2? No, it doesn't.
Whew.
Well, I'll give you a wee.
I feel I should know this because I love almost all of the films.
Do you want me to give you a
The
wee
fourth
clue?
one I was only really watching because Renee, whatever her name was.
Right.
She
I'll
was
give you a
really-
wee. This is a wee teeny clue, and it is an off-beat type of clue, so you need to be ready for it.
Oh, I think you're throwing me off the track here. It's not Irish.
Come on, I picked it up straight away, and
Of course you did. You're the one providing the clues.
No, but even I never thought about it at the time. It's just I was thinking, wonder if anybody noticed the name of his boat because we were talking about the boat.
It must be an Easter egg now because I'm so bad at picking up.
Well, I had no chance of guessing this, so I've cheated and looked it up, but I'm saying nothing
Shamrock.
until.
Oh, that's the connection to Irish, of course, but
It was a shamrock.
but does it really have any Irish connection?
It didn't. I don't know where it came from. When that's correct, isn't it? Shamrock.
Well,
What does it say?
I've just realized I think the clue that I found is actually from the 4th film. So let's do.
Let's see if I can find a bit.
Hold on.
The bit when they're standing on the boat. I'm just actually trying to find the bit in the movie where they're standing on the boat. It's around about there. Right, I need.
Whilst you're hunting that, I will say this: even though I'm giving this film a 10 out of 10, there's still so many new things that I'm missing because I'm just sitting back and really enjoying it. Even knowing that we were going to review it for this evening, coming up with what's my niggly bits, and it's like,
yeah,
I can't do that, but okay, there are definitely continuity errors throughout it, but not the. I don't really care too much about that unless it's too obvious. Like you have Game of Thrones meant to be in a medieval era, then there's a Starbucks coffee cup on the table. That's a bit too much.
There you go.
See, is that the name, or might that just be the model of the?
Yeah, it's right. Look.
Because the name you usually have on
it's
the
actually
bow
on the back when his daughter comes in. There, it's their watch.
Oh, Shamrock.
Oh, wow. I can't remember that.
That would definitely
It was
be.
that part. I never even noticed it initially, but it's
That's a 3-leaf clover.
Yeah, a 3-leaf clover. Really.
Even
there
so,
you go.
the poor guy never really gets to take the boat out. It just sits in his drive.
But see, that is quite tropish because it would have been a muscle car in other times. he would have just sat in it because he would have been building a car, or he would have been building something. The Al Bundy building his toilet would have been.
If I may pose a question here, midlife crisis for me is somewhere when you're between, like, say, 35 to 45. You're starting to realize you're not a teenager anymore. You want something to bring the youth back, but he's 50. Isn't this boat more a retirement plan? This is what I want to do when I retire.
Yeah, it could be, but it's also the fact is, they used to say midlife crisis was in your late 20s, early 30s. Then it was your late 30s, early 40s. Because you could retire, if you retired at 50,
Yeah,
especially
boats were definitely the thing.
You know what boat means, don't you?
No, go on then.
Bung on another 1,000.
Aside from the obvious.
Bung on another 1,000. Just because they're expensive. That's what the boats mean. Bung on another 1,000. Or burn off another 1,000. It really depends how you look at it. But because they're expensive to run.
I'm going to be brutally honest. If I win the national lottery or whatever, I'd definitely get myself a yacht that is like 5 times the size of the flat I'm living in at the moment, with professional chef and captain and everything. And even though I have like 15 rooms on this one, I would never see.
Well, the nice thing about having a boat, Jim, is great. It's if you don't like your neighbors just sail in the other direction, just you can just go anywhere you want to within reason.
Grew up next to a really, really, really large lake. So although I didn't have big boats, I did go sailing, I did go rowing, I did go do all of that stuff.
Yeah, I did the sailing as well.
And I will say it is
everything from a one-man topper to a wind sailor or a kite. Basically did them. My granddad used to have actually what would you class it as? It had 2 beds in it, let's put it that way. So it was a cabin cruiser. And we had that up in Loch Lomond. Go up there every weekend.
Well, I can say, even though this was, I'm not sure if it's available in schools anymore, and I realized that we're talking to people that definitely no longer in school, but we used to have work placement for a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
But it's 4 or 5 years and they have to organise it themselves.
Well, I got placed on the merchant vessel, big ass container ship.
Wow.
And I was on it for 2 weeks. I remember loving the fact that the food was cooked and it was really well made by the chef in the galley and all that stuff. But I was there with the, it's not called captain, it's the pilot or whatever it is that comes on board, because when you are a multinational ship, if you come into national water,
as a pilot, it's basically
essentially they know the waters and everything. And toward the end of the second week, I was brave enough, so I asked, it's like, can I at least once like steer the ship a little bit, like turn it a little bit, and it like does the turning.
Yeah.
And the pilot just went, don't worry about it. I'll call you up in a few hours when we get when the next one is. And I thought, oh, fine, I'm just like going to turn the wheel. No, we went into this literally massive S-turn, really tight canal, and it was just going, it's like 15 degrees, press that button. 38 degrees this way, touch that button. I was just going, it's like, panic. Obviously, he knew what he was doing, but it was like, I knew it was like, there is no brake on a ship of that size.
Yeah.
If you miss steer, you're continuing ahead.
Yeah. I was laughing. Colin said he got seasick in a boat in the Mediterranean. The sea at the time was so shallow, he jumped off and waded back.
I like it.
The thing is, as well, and it's definitely a pilot. My cousin is a captain on a passenger ship in one of the locks in Scotland. So yes, it's only the
Is he?
small one, and it holds something like 67 people. So he's a captain in that. However, the biggest boat. See, I've done. I used to be in the sailing club. I've been on my boss's yacht, which was superb, 57 foot. It was. That's a nice big sailing boat, and and that's fun. But the biggest one that any of my family has ever steered, or at least got to done, was a submarine.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
nice.
My mother somehow talked herself onto a submarine in the later, and then when they were actually going out, she came back with a pilot. Basically, my mum had when growing up, it was always a case of my mum saying, "You can't ride that. You'll fall off that. You do that." I got a motorbike later on because my mum would never let me and my brother have a motorbike. But later on, we found out is when my oldest sister, when she was pregnant, she heard my mum and she looked and there's my mum driving past her on the back of a motorbike holding on. And she said, "She told me I wasn't allowed to do that."
Well,
there
she
was
had her reasons, I'm sure.
she was up at Loch Luss in Scotland, and we were staying at Mansion. And instead of walking along, this big yacht pulled up, and the wee rib came down, and me and we were all going, "Oh, I wonder who's in that." There's my mum getting off because she was chatting to a couple of people, and they says, "Oh, we're just going back." She says, "We drop you off." She says, "Oh, come on, let there." No problem. Up in a big yacht, and then in the wee rib just to get something like half a mile. They basically
Love
spent
it.
almost an hour, and then a helicopter as well. She managed to chat and talk herself onto a helicopter for free, and we were all sitting there thinking, all you need was a tanker, a big truck, and she says, "Done that." Basically,
Good for
same
her.
idea. She basically just one of those, and she would just gab to people and, "Yeah, you want to try?" No problem. So she basically
Why
up
not?
north, and they were all chatting to in the pub. And then when we were driving back, my dad had forgot to check the petrol, and it ran out of petrol halfway. And this big truck pulled up. Says, "I'll drive you down and bring these back up." So then my dad says, "I'll go," and my mum says, "Nah, I'll go." So she's she's in this big tanker, the big articulated, and you're sitting there thinking. And she was shouting at me because I wanted a bike.
I
And
love it. Love it.
But yeah, that was the biggest one.
That's parents for you. It's do what I
Yeah,
say, don't do what I do.
yeah, that's definitely.
Yes.
But it just goes to show a submarine, because I've been in a submarine, but I've never had the chance just to even go, right, this is the thing for steering it. What you do is you do, and that
I
just got
mean,
look at me.
I'm a short ass, barely 5'10", 9, 11, whatever it's called in American terms.
Sure, arse. Try 5'7".
But even so, I was too tall for the submarines I went into. It was like constantly having to duck. It was like, really?
Yeah.
This is not the comfortable space to be in. They said to me the average height they were looking for submarine staff was like 5'6", 5'7". I consider myself a short ass.
The funniest one I heard, it was God, it was actually, they were talking to people about Second World War, and they were talking to two German submariners, and they were speaking in English, so it wasn't really dubbed or anything like that. And one of them says, "My friend always thought he was crazy," and they said, "Why did they think you're crazy? Because you wanted to go on a submarine?" He says, "No, because I couldn't swim when you go on a submarine." And I had to explain to him, if the submarine sinks,
It's not going to make any difference
it's
if you know
not
how to
going to make
swim
any
or
difference.
not.
Or
You're going to be too far down.
or it's on the surface and the submarine sinks, I'm going to be in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
So it made no difference if I could swim or not. And his pal was sitting next to him laughing. And he says it just goes to show because people don't realise, yeah, I'm in a submarine, you can't swim. Does it matter? And I thought that was one of the best ones you can do. They're not saying you're crazy for going on a submarine. They're saying you're crazy for going on a submarine and you can't swim.
Well, there's a great line from the Jaws, the original Jaws, where Hooper is talking to Brody, and he's saying something like he's going back to Brody's about something Brody said, and he says, "Well, it doesn't make much sense to live on an island and you can't swim," or something. And Brody says, "It's only an island if you look at it from the water." It was a great line, and that was one of the character quirks of Chief Brody, was that he didn't actually swim.
Yeah. See, the thing is as well, even that, an island, and they'll say, but you can't swim. Say, if I'm on a boat and I can't swim, then I might get into trouble. This island's not going to sink. So unless I want to go onto a boat, then swimming's an issue. But if you're on an island, does it matter? It's not going to sink.
No, exactly.
That's like saying, I've got a boat, but I can't drive. Well, you're actually not in a car, so it makes no difference if you can drive or not. You need to know how to sail, or you need to know how to actually pilot your boat, but driving's not an issue. Try and do a handbrake turn.
You know what this not swimming reminds me of in films in terms of a really good, I can't swim.
What?
Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh God, yes. That was
It's
a cringe
literally
scene.
shallow water, but he can't swim, so he's panicking in water.
Little John.
And he gets him, put your feet down, yeah.
Yeah. They've done that a few times. They've done it. What was the most recent one they did it in?
They've probably done it quite a few times.
Yeah,
but
they've done that quite recently, but I think his was the best because it was Little John. We're above him.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember
his
that.
butt must have been touching like the bottom of that very shallow, because he's so big and it's just like, put your feet down. And when he's standing up, it's like the water is leading to his knees.
They have done this stuff like that, but yeah. So, what's next for us for Saturday is just a general let's talk Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Because somebody didn't want me to talk about White Christmas.
I don't like
we still
La 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 la. I'm not listening.
It's still a cracking one, but I do have. I've already shared it with PJ. I'm not sure if I shared it with you, but it's a Scandinavian film. I'm not sure it's actually really Christmas, but it is definitely winter setting, and it's called Let the Right One In.
Oh, I've heard of this.
It is a very, very good film. And you can see on the screen right now, like this is the dark, like wintertime.
I love these. I love these sort of settings. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, really good. But
is it classed?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jim. Is it classed as a horror or?
Let's see.
Or supernatural? Or?
It's supernatural. I will give. Horror,
it's crime, drama, fantasy. That's the subcategory.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. This is something I'm sad about, because Sweden used to put out good films. There's been quite a few that has been like, wow, that's really, really good. But more often than not, it's like, really?
Did you see the tagline for it? Ellie is 12 years old.
You zoom in so it can be read on the screen a bit.
And
control and scroll wheel.
Ellie is 12 years old. She's been 12 for over 200 years, and she just moved in next door.
That's a good hook.
Tagline for it.
I will not spoil anything, but
Nope.
I really enjoyed this one.
Well, I've got it. As you can see, I had it sitting there ready for when I get a chance. I've taken a note of it. It's just that it's there, and God knows where I'll find it. I'll have a look on Amazon. Just not had a chance to look. That's why it's
I'll
still
check it. I think I've seen that on Amazon, but I don't know if it's a pay one or if it's included in Prime. It's probably a pay one. But I'll have a look.
Likely to be.
I'll definitely have a look at it. That's why it's actually still there since the last time you mentioned it, because I've not had a chance and I've been busy.
Go ahead, Wen.
Sorry.
And I caught you in the perfect moment.
Yes, still suffocating here. Yeah, I think I'll have a look on Amazon Prime and see what the deal is. I know I've seen it in my travels when I've been searching films, but I can't remember what service I saw it on.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to look around as well, just for the same idea. When Jim mentioned it to me, I've had it sitting there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's one of those. It kind of goes slow, but it's suddenly like you get really hooked, and it does it so well for being kid actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to remember Christmas movies Saturday. Are we doing it an hour early for Darren?
Yes.
Saturday, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Yeah, that would be lovely.
Ladles and jelly spoons, because we're going to start doing a new time to a wee bit earlier for Saturday. Wheel of Time, episode 5, shoot me now, Sunday.
Cool.
And then we'll have one Wednesday, then it's Christmas. So, then the new year. So there's probably 2 weeks to start these off.
Just to throw a little bit of it's not a spoiler or 2 spoilers. For Christmas, just random talk, not actually watching and reviewing, just what you've heard or if you've seen them. It's Shazam, which was really good for a DC superhero film.
Yeah.
At least my interpretation. But I do have an oldie goldie from 1990, Edward Scissorhands.
Oh gosh, yes. That was fun. Oh, what you got? Oh, the Flash.
That's not the Flash. That's Shazam.
Oh, of course it is. My God, I should know that. I remember when that was on.
Well,
yes. I remember watching that.
Well.
Yeah, I remember watching the TV series.
Yeah. The original, I remember actually seeing the black and white one. The original Shazam. And it was basically unlike the Superman with George Reeves, where they had to do him the Superman, and then he would jump out the window, and then they would have him as if he was flying. Whereas Shazam, it was dead easy, because you just have Billy Batson go, Shazam! Then there would be a flash on the screen, and suddenly Shazam was standing there.
Yes.
So basically it was easier for the effects, because it just went bright. So when he shouted it, so it was easy for them to actually stop it. It's like when they had the Wonder Woman, they had one, and then they had to sort of meld it in with Wonder Woman. They had it a lot easier. They just went flash, and there's suddenly Shazam standing there. But yeah, I remember, and I remember the old black and white one. Saw a couple episodes, but it was so long ago. I just remember bits of it.
I will say the biggest niggle, not even an issue, is Zachary Lewis. He's just playing Chuck from Chuck the TV show.
Hey, do you want to see something?
Right, you want to see something really scary?
No. Something really Right. See all these these TV shows here? That's season 2 of Chuck. So it is.
On the right-hand screen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
see it
that's there.
now, and
So this is
I will have to admit, Chuck.
Lethal Weapon was stuck in the middle of that, so it was. So I'm gonna, as soon as I finish, I'm watching episode 7 of Chuck, season 2.
As much as I really actually enjoyed Chuck for what it was, I have to admit, Yvonne Strahovski, or however you pronounce her name, she was the reason I was drawn in. The fact that she's balanced up by Baldwin, it doesn't hurt because he is.
Adam Baldwin is absolutely fantastic in this. The
Yeah,
two
he's
shows
very
he is
charismatic.
superb in is Chuck and Firefly. He is absolutely amazing in both of those. So yes, they're definitely. I think I actually prefer him as John than I do as Jane, just for the simple fact is how well he plays John and Chuck. Just one of those roles he just sort of sits. Jane's character in Firefly is absolutely amazing, but he's really good as John in this. So I did season 1 last week. I'm on season 2 for this week. And obviously over the Christmas period I'll catch the 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're already on there. It's basically I do enjoy it, and I just got a penchant for it. Hence the reason why I was saying in episode 1 or episode 2 of season 1 that John and Chuck are trying to track down Sarah, and they think they found her, but they think she's getting tortured, and they go in, and it's Morgan sitting with a big bowl of popcorn watching a horror movie, and it's them.
Oh, love it. Jim? Yay!
But I'm gonna have. Sorry to jump ahead of you, Wen.
No, go ahead.
You and me, PJ, we are IT people. Do you think that Chuck may speak a little bit to us that the fact that an IT support staff member is suddenly becoming a super spy hero, accidentally trapped in like CIA, NSA, whatever these worlds are?
Yeah, I must admit, I can't wait till season 3, because season 3 gets the update to the Intersect, and that's where it starts reprogramming his brain so he knows how to actually take apart guns, dance, do karate and stuff like that, because the Intersect. So season 2, he's just had the update, which gives him a bit more information, but season 3 is when it gets the update that he can do things with it, and that to me actually is a step up. And considering usually the first season's usually slow, second season's a lot better, third can be either better or as good, then it starts going downhill. I actually think Chuck, right up until the end, was actually really good. The 5 seasons. It's an unusual one because they actually ended it when it was still on a high. So, and yeah, the Night's Watch stuff, Shad, I didn't really like his take on it because he had 2 guys who were book novices, and what he was doing is he was saying, yeah, although they changed this for the book, they did this, and I'm sitting there thinking, no, either stick. Oh, sorry, that was just me. I belted my table because I was talking about.
I'll agree with you. He's taking over a little bit too much because he is just like you and I. We're passionate fans of the books, and if you recall the last stream we had, it wasn't that we were coming to blows, but it was literally like, this is junk. How can they do something this horrible?
Well, I was watching someone's. It wasn't the Prophet of the Dragon. It was one salty cracker or salty sea cracker. I can't remember. I need to get thing. And I put a comment on. Do you know what would have saved this show? They could have had it exactly the way they had it. But do you know how it would have saved it? All instead of saying Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, saying inspired by Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, and then they don't use any of the characters, and it's just another cycle, and it's different characters.
Yeah,
So
they
they
could
could get away
definitely.
with it.
I see exactly where you're going, and that.
So like, they could have been actually an age before or after. So you might not. They might have actually mentioned Rand the same as they mentioned Lewis Theron. So it would have been something in the past, and then it's just a different group of Taviran and stuff like that. So they could have had anything. So they could have had. They don't need to mention any names. They might name them as part of the legends, the same as Lewis Theron and stuff like that's mentioned. But in that way, they could have actually had new Forsaken and stuff like that, because you could have get rid of the Forsaken and it's just
You see, I'm on the self-Schadenfreude. I want to hurt myself, but I want to see what they're going to try to do with the extremely ambitious, self-driven Landfair.
yeah.
Because
That's not going to
you
happen.
cannot portray a woman this way at all in today's Hollywood. I want to see.
They're not, because you'll have a woman who will be evil, but she'll not really be. She'll actually be just pretending to be.
Oh, no,
and
Landfair is pure evil.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But in modern TV, anyway, we'll discuss that on Sunday. Leave poor Wendy so she doesn't hear us arguing about picking Wheel of Time. We will discuss that Sunday. So Saturday we are going to do Christmas movies, TV shows, whatever, anything Christmas touched.
Sounds
I'll
good.
see if I'll be able to dig up something.
The Married with Children's Christmas one.
Because obviously I didn't grow up in the United Kingdom, but when I grew up in Scandinavia, they used to have, you get your calendar, you have your 24 lid.
Your advent calendar.
They used to have it on at 7:10 in the morning on the equivalent of BBC for kids for about 5-10 minutes, and it was stories and everything. I'd see if I can dig something like that up, because there were some really amazing stuff there. There was like trolls in the woods, and they were on the journey or trying to do something. It was literally just like 10-minute segments, and you got the story over 24 days until Christmas was done.
They used to do that a lot, leading up, especially Saturday mornings, or usually about between 5 and 6, because the news was on at 6. So it was usually something for the kids prior to the news coming on.
Our school used to start at 8:30, so they knew the parent could literally just like, you have your shoes on, clothes on, sit in front of the TV, 7 to 7:10. Now we're hauling you off in the car and getting you to school.
Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gents, shall we finish off there?
Yep.
And thank everybody for joining us. Archer, Colin,
Yay.
thank you.
Everybody.
I'm not going to mention the other two
we
in the chat at the moment. I
start
mean, that
giving the
Vendology or
spammers
Jim.
a big thank you as well.
Yeah, the lovely Sherry, thank you very much. Kelly Inch, thank you very much. And we had Mr. Brown's Alliance.
Kelly is not the spammer. She's not the spammer. Sorry if we confused you in that group. Yep. You're not the spammer.
Darren, thank you. And we had Derek Books, thank you very much. Newport TARDIS, thank you. Thank you one and all for joining us for this fun Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
So join us again on Saturday, 8 o'clock, Christmas show. Last Christmas before Christmas.
Last show before Christmas.
Have another Christmas Saturday before Christmas.
That's what I was looking for. Last show before Christmas. Last Christmas before Christmas. Where'd that come from? I've got
God.
We will have one or two fun bits. I'll see if I can find out one or two wee bits of fun trivia.
Cool.
Do something like that. Because that way we can have a, if you get it right, or
awesome.
If you get it.
I have all those buttons too.
Gucci Prada.
If you get something weird. Or if you actually can stump me.
I love it. You guys are so great.
Don't play that one again.
No
That
problem.
one
but-
makes me want to stab something.
Yeah.
I'm so certain I'm going to be
think of
put in a
maybe a
meme
couple
doing
of
that.
Christmas questions up. It'll not be too detailed, and I'll try and make it movie related Christmas ones,
Sounds good.
and see what we go from there. That'll give me homework.
Well, I'm giving you my two ones: Edward Scissorhands and Let the Right One In.
Well, my Christmas one, you know what mine is going to be. It's going to be White Christmas and It's a
Yeah.
Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Lovely.
You see, even though I know what's the one I've recommended to you and I've seen it, it rips your heart. White Christmas and the name just
Wonderful
disappeared.
Life.
Wonderful Life. They literally like taking your heart out like a classic old Japanese, Chinese like fighting style. It's like punch in, drag your heart out.
Wonderful Life,
Yes.
yes. But White Christmas, I think, is just a happy movie. It's not
Yeah.
sad. There's just a wee teeny bit
It's
here
not
and there,
sad, but
not
it
a
is
sad.
tugging at you.
Yeah, but I
Mm.
think it's
Getting
just
in.
one of those type of movies I just love. And you realise one of the characters in it was in she was in White Christmas, and she was also in Sister Act. How many years apart were those two movies?
Not Maggie.
Sister Act, she was the nun who played the piano
Oh,
very
really?
badly,
Oh,
Yeah.
and she was the one who played
the one with the
receptionist
hearing aid.
yes, and she was the
Oh,
one who played the receptionist in the White Christmas.
very interesting.
Yeah, she is just she's played in so many iconic roles.
What a career,
Played
yeah.
mother-in-law. She's played secretary. She's just a fantastic actor, and I can't even remember what her name is, but I'll remember it by Saturday, and we'll
Or
discuss it anyway.
you'll
Good.
IMDb it. But I'm
Well,
starting
I'll
to
try and
feel
get
that
some
I've
movie
recommended good
trivia.
ones, but I need to up my game now.
I'll think of some movie trivia for us. So, and unfortunately, I can't actually get. I have to get ones that I know the answers to. So I can't catch myself. But there were three of you, which it gives you a thing. So anyway, ladies and gents, thank you for joining us. And remember, I'm not old. I'm classic. From myself, Wend, and Jim, thank you guys, and have a really good night. And don't work too hard in the morning.